Springtime is here and there's nothing to fear because today I'm going to be talking about some horror films I like to enjoy during springtime season. Not only are these films just fun to watch, but they're taking place during the springtime. So I thought it would be fun to do this video for you guys. Since this week is St. Patrick's Day, since this week has St. Patrick's Day in it, it'll probably be uploaded on St. Patrick's Day or the day after. We are going to start off with Leprechaun. Leprechaun is a 1993 comedy horror film. Dan O'Grady, played by Shay Duffin, steals gold coins from, you guessed it, a leprechaun, played by Warwick Davis. Dan would lock up this leprechaun after the leprechaun tries to get his coins back. Dan would hold this leprechaun in a crate held at bay by a 4-leaf clover. 10 years later, Tori, played by the iconic Jennifer Aniston, and her father rent Dan O'Grady's property for the summer. Their new neighbor for the summer accidentally releases the leprechaun, and he goes on a murderous rampage and will stop at nothing to get his gold back. I watched this film a lot growing up. It was one of the first horror films I watched, and I wouldn't say it's terrifying. It's a little bit ridiculous and definitely gives off a campy vibe. Not the campfire vibe, but camp vibe. There are a lot of goofy chase scenes that are hilarious and not scary at all. But I bet if you were in this position, you'd be terrified that a murderous leprechaun is coming after you. It's so bad, it's good. I would say it's a fun comfort horror film to watch. It still has effective scares mixed in with some wackiness. I believe it was Jennifer Aniston's debut film, which is just cherries on top because I just love Jennifer Aniston. And she hasn't done horror since, I believe, but her best friend, Courtney Cox, is one of the best scream queens in my opinion. On a scarier note, up next is Cabin Fever 2002. This film is directed by Eli Roth, and this was his feature debut, which definitely gives off a Eli Roth film. If you have not seen Cabin Fever, it is about a group of college students who, ding ding ding, rent a cabin in the woods. Lurking there is a flesh-eating disease, and the students fall victim to it, but are also trying to run from a group of locals out for revenge. This film is pretty dark and is filled with a lot of gore, but I would say the scariest part about this film is the flesh-eating disease. I still get the heebie-jeebies thinking about it. There is a particular scene where a woman is taking a shower and her skin be skinning, and it was disgusting. And watching it as a kid, it was terrifying. Anything to do with skin, not my vibe. Freaks me out. Ugh. This film is very nostalgic for me because I grew up watching it. It gives me this feeling that my skin crawls and I can smell the air, and the air doesn't smell so nice. But I found it to still be tense, mixed in with a little silliness. Overall, I think this film still stands pretty strong. I have not watched it, I would say, in like a couple months, but I still enjoyed it. It's not a film that won awards, but I think it was a great film from Eli Roth. I think it's one of his best. Now, still going in with that cabin vibe, up next is going to be Cabin in the Woods. Cabin in the Woods is a science fiction comedy horror film with lots of surprises. It surprised me still to this day, and I watched it opening weekend. A group of friends go to a cabin in the woods where the fate is unknowingly controlled by technicians manipulating their events for a global purpose. This film is fun and it's scary, and you kind of want to play along with the, what are they called? Technicians controlling what's going to happen to them. Definitely like a puzzle to solve. The cast is great. The cast is funny. I love it, and I love them. The plot is clever and the monsters look phenomenal. Very accurate and scary. Lastly, this film does not lose momentum and it still holds up strong today. It's great quality, great fun, and scary, I would say. Now, the next two I'm gonna put together because they're the same film, just one's a remake. So, up next is Prom Night 1980. And then we're going to talk about the remake that took place in 2008. So the reason why I included Prom Night is because it technically takes place in the springtime. I would say the first one, the 1980 original one, it gives off more of a spring vibe because they're outside more in this one. The remake mostly takes place in the hotel. But for Prom Night 1980, it stars Jamie Lee Curtis, and I actually really enjoyed this film. I remember watching it on my computer in the late 2000s. It was not the best quality, but I wanted to watch it so bad, and thanks to a shady website, I was able to. This one is vastly different from the remake for obvious reasons. So for the original, if you have not seen it, this film follows a killer out to avenge the death of a young girl who died after being bullied by some of her classmates. Later in life, the now high school students start being killed off one by one and realize someone knows the truth. I love this one, but don't get me wrong, the quality isn't the best. That could be due to my computer back in the day, but I was able to rewatch it, and it is, I think it was more of a low budget film, but it doesn't take away that the film was still good. I really liked the ending because there is a twist, and I did not see it coming. I might have been a little bit younger, but usually I get the endings pretty quick, and this one was definitely a twist. Now, as for the 2008 one, it follows Brittany Snow, iconic scream queen. Respect her name. Brittany Snow is a icon. But in this, she plays Donna, who had something very traumatic happen to her. Her teacher became obsessed with her, and he killed her whole family, and she witnessed it, and it truly heartbreaking. But a year later or years later, she gets ready for her senior prom, and the teacher that was obsessed with her, he's locked up, but sadly he would escape from prison facility, and he comes after her and ruins her prom night. He kills off her friends and her classmates one by one to get to her. I really enjoyed the remake. I think it's one of the best 2000s remakes of a horror film. I mean, that decade, a lot of remakes came out, and this one was one of the best. Great quality. The kills were good. Not the scariest, not super gory, but I would say it's a comfort thriller to watch, and Brittany Snow's in it. And this film definitely holds up well. You can still enjoy it today. Now, continuing on the prom night note, up next is Carrie. I love Carrie. If you know me, you know that. I'm not going to repeat myself. Probably will. But Carrie is one of the best films of all time, in my opinion, horror-wise. And I think it's one of the best Stephen King adaptations. I did read the book in high school. I got to choose a book to write an essay on, and I chose Carrie. I've always loved the film. I grew up watching it, but if you have not seen Carrie, go see it. But it is about Carrie White, who is very sensitive, a withdrawn teenage girl being bullied by kids at school and the staff, really. She is also sheltered by her religious, abusive single mother at home, so she truly has no break. Carrie would suspect that she has powers after strange occurrences. She would soon get invited to the prom, but as soon as she lets her guard down, the night would take a violent turn. Not only is this film enjoyable and freaky, it masters storytelling, and it has a lot of messages within it. If that's what you want, you can just watch it to enjoy it, but there are, I believe, some messages to it. I mean, there's a lot of storytelling about power and being isolated by your abusive parent, isolated by religion. Being bullied at school is very isolating, and Carrie was, honestly, she had no break. At school, at home, she had it rough. And I would say it tells the story about consequences of having too much power and being a nasty bully, because she gets her revenge, kinda. And we can sympathize with Carrie, even though it takes a twist in the end. Do we still feel bad for her? I think you can really dig deep into this film, or you can just enjoy it for what it is. And I like to do both. Up next is one of my personal favorites, which is April Fool's Day. Not the remake, the original, 1986. I love this film. My grandma showed it to me as a kid, and I really liked it. I think it's fun, funny, a little scary, a puzzle to solve, and it kind of has a happy ending. A group of college students staying at a friend's remote, isolated mansion begin to fall victim to an unseen murderer over April Fool's Day weekend. The cast is funny. It has scary elements to it. The setting is gorgeous. I think it's a fun, easy film to watch, and I love it. It also takes place in April, which is my birthday month, which is coming up. Since this episode is about spring, why not talk about a movie called Spring? This movie came out in 2014, and to be honest, it's not my vibe, but I know a lot of people can enjoy it. Sci-fi thrillers aren't my favorite, but I'll watch it if it was recommended to me, and this one was recommended to me, and luckily it is on Tubi, which is free to watch, so I was able to watch it, and let's talk about it. So if you have not seen Spring, it is about a young man who travels to Italy and begins a romance with a student who hides a dark secret. This relationship would take a dark and very strange turn. I would say this movie starts off slow, but it does pick up the pace. It definitely ended up in a way that I didn't think the film was gonna go, but I did enjoy it for what it was. There is a kind of twist at the end I didn't see coming, but that's the joy of movies. But I would say if you enjoy science fiction films, this one is definitely for you. Another recommended film I watched for this was Hatching, and this is a newer film. This came out in 2022, and it is available to watch on Hulu. It is about a young girl who is a gymnast. She tries to please her bitch-ass mother. Yes, I said bitch-ass mother. And this little girl would discover a strange egg and takes care of it. It soon would hatch and becomes her best friend, yet her biggest nightmare. I'd say this film has really great acting performances. The little girl in this was phenomenal. Even the mom, she gave a great performance in this. So solid leads. The storytelling was unique. Definitely some meaning but behind the whole movie. I would say it's a coming of age film with some sort of take on body horror. Not something I would gravitate towards, but I thought it was also a movie I'll never forget. Last but not least, this film, oh my gosh, I'm still traumatized by this film, and that is Midsommar. Woohoo! I watched this film when it came out. I think it did not come out in the movie theaters, but it went to Amazon Prime. I could be wrong. And I was preparing for it to be crazy because all of that's what everybody was talking about, how this film was traumatizing. So let's talk about Midsommar. This film came out in 2019 and stars Florence Pugh. I love her. Love her. She's a great actress. But this film messed me up. It still freaks me out. It's bizarre, very disturbing, and definitely sinister. So if you have not seen it, Midsommar is about a couple who travels to Sweden to visit their friend's rural hometown for its festival. Starts off great, but quickly turns violent and into a bizarre competition at the hands of a cult. The setting is eerie, but it's stunning. Acting, of course, is phenomenal. There is a character in this named Connie, and I definitely love that touch. I don't get to hear my name often, so I really liked that. The kills make you want to turn your head. Definitely. The kills are innovated, but not in a slasher way. In a way that you want to run for the hills when you watch it because you are in danger. It explores the theme of grief, the danger of isolation, and being in a cult. There's a lot of symbolism, like the flowers in this film. The flowers in this are stunning. I would say this film is a little bit slower. It's an independent film, but there's meaning behind the slowness. And you have to watch every single frame because the more you watch it, which I don't recommend watching more than once, but when you watch it again, you pick up on things you didn't see in the first one. So the pace is slower, but it's what is needed for this film. Overall, you will never forget this film. Ever, ever, ever. It will go down in history. It's not super scary, but it makes you feel like you're in danger. And that is going to be it for me today. There's definitely more films to include. I was debating on putting Jeepers Creepers on here, but I don't. It's very sad because I grew up watching that film. I really enjoy it. But after finding out about the director, it's just, it doesn't make me feel right watching it. And yeah, you can do your own research about that. But there are other films to include, and I might do that next year. But that is just a fun list of movies I like to enjoy during the springtime and that I recommend. Stay safe out there, and I will see you guys very, very soon. Bye-bye.